The nicest person you know is dying inside, not from sickness, from silence, from every "it's fine" they never meant, from every smile they used as a mask over a scream. You think kindness is saving them. It is destroying them, one swallowed word at a time. And the most dangerous part? Nobody will tell them the truth until it's too late. There is a kind of person the world loves to praise, the one who never argues, the one who always agrees, the one who apologizes for things that were never their fault. We call them kind. We call them good. We call them easy to be around. But Friedrich Nietzsche looked at this same person and saw something else entirely. He saw a soul in chains, smiling so no one would notice the wounds. Nietzsche believed that what we call niceness is often not virtue at all. It is fear wearing a friendly face. It is weakness that has learned to disguise itself as goodness, because weakness alone cannot survive in this world. But weakness dressed as kindness gets protected, even praised. Think about that for a moment. The world doesn't reward strength as often as you think. It rewards submission, as long as that submission smiles back. You were taught to be agreeable, to keep the peace, to never make anyone uncomfortable, to shrink yourself so others could feel bigger. And somewhere along the way, you started calling that being a good person. But ask yourself honestly, were you being good, or were you simply afraid of what would happen if you weren't? This is the dark truth hiding underneath niceness. Most people who are too nice are not full of love, they are full of fear. Fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of being hated, fear of standing alone in a room while everyone else turns away. So they say yes when they mean no. They laugh at jokes that hurt them. They give and give and give, not because their hearts are overflowing, but because their boundaries were never allowed to exist. Nietzsche had a name for this kind of morality. He called it slave morality, a way of living built not from strength, but from the need to be safe, to be liked, to avoid punishment from a world that feels too big and too dangerous to challenge. It is the morality of those who never learned they were allowed to have power, so instead they learned to survive by pleasing. And here is where it turns dark, because the people who are too nice don't just hurt themselves, they quietly teach the world how to treat them. Every time you swallow your anger to keep someone comfortable, you are teaching them that your comfort doesn't matter. Every time you say, "It's okay," when it is not okay, you are training people to walk past your pain without even noticing it's there. Kindness without boundaries is not kindness. It is an invitation for the world to take more than it gives. Think of every person you've known who was endlessly nice. Now think of how many people respected them and how many people used them. Niceness without strength does not earn loyalty, it earns advantage. People don't admire those who never push back. They learn how far they can go before there is no pushback at all. This is the brutal lesson Nietzsche forces us to face. The world does not run on kindness, it runs on power. And those who refuse to claim any power for themselves, who hand it all away in the name of being good, eventually become invisible, not respected, not remembered, just used and then forgotten. But here is the twist most people never see coming. Nietzsche was not telling us to become cruel. He was not saying kindness is weakness in itself. He was warning us about a counterfeit kindness, kindness that comes from fear instead of choice. There is a world of difference between a person who is kind because they are strong enough to choose gentleness and a person who is nice because they are too afraid to be anything else. Real strength can afford to be soft. A lion does not need to prove it is dangerous. It simply is. But a creature that has never tasted its own power has nothing to offer except submission disguised as virtue. This is what Nietzsche called the difference between the strong and the weak, not how loud someone is, not how aggressive, but whether their gentleness comes from choice or from fear. So how do you know which one you are? Ask yourself this: when was the last time you said no and meant it? When was the last time you disagreed with someone you were afraid to lose? When was the last time you let someone be disappointed in you because the alternative was disappointing yourself? If the answer is, "I can't remember," then what you call kindness may actually be self-erasure. This is where the deeper truth begins to surface. The people who are too nice are often the most resentful people in the room. They have simply never been honest enough, even with themselves, to admit it. All that swallowed anger does not disappear. It does not evaporate because you smiled through it. It sinks. It waits. And one day, it either explodes in a moment that shocks everyone who thought they knew you, or it turns inward, becoming depression, anxiety, exhaustion, a slow erosion of the self that nobody can see from the outside. Nietzsche warned that those who deny their own will, their own desires, their own anger, their own right to want things, do not become peaceful. They become hollow. He believed that life itself is driven by what he called the will to power, the deep human need to grow, to assert, to become more than what we were yesterday. When you suppress that will in the name of being agreeable, you are not transcending your nature. You are betraying it. And here is the part that will sting the most. The people who take advantage of nice people are rarely villains twirling a moustache in the dark. They are often ordinary people who simply noticed, consciously or not, that you would never stop them. Manipulators do not look for victims who are cruel. They look for victims who are nice, because nice, without boundaries, is the easiest door in the world to walk through. This does not mean kindness is your enemy. It means unconditional kindness, kindness with no edges, no limits, no self-respect attached to it, is a wound waiting to be opened by anyone who notices it. The goal was never to become heartless. The goal is to become whole, to have a self strong enough that your kindness becomes a gift you choose to give, not a tax you are forced to pay just to be tolerated. So what does Nietzsche's hard truth ask of you? It asks you to stop confusing self-erasure with virtue. It asks you to notice the difference between peace and surrender. It asks you to understand that saying no is sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and even for the people who are forced to finally see the real you instead of the performance you built to keep them comfortable. Because the tragedy is not that the world is cruel. The tragedy is that so many gentle, capable, powerful souls spend their entire lives apologizing for existing, convinced that their needs are a burden, that their anger is shameful, that their boundaries make them unlovable. And so they shrink, again and again, until one day they look in the mirror and do not recognize the person staring back, someone who gave everything away and kept nothing for themselves. This is the warning hidden inside the idea of being too nice. Not that kindness is dangerous, but that kindness without strength is not kindness at all. It is fear, wearing kindness as a costume, hoping no one ever asks it to take the mask off. The strongest people you will ever meet are not the loudest. They are the ones who learn to say no without guilt, to disagree without fear, to be kind because they chose to, not because they were terrified of what would happen if they weren't. That is the difference between a person who serves the world and a person the world quietly learns to walk all over. So before you call yourself too nice, ask the harder question. Are you kind, or are you simply afraid? Because one of those will set you free, and the other will hollow you out, smiling, until there is nothing left to give away.